spent today trying to get an appointment with an ophthalmologist, retina specialist actually, who has experience with someone with polio and autoimmune diseases that I unfortunately have many, which sucks. And it's turning out that the majority of these doctors that are into retina specialists are not very old, and when you call their offices to find out do they have any experience with the polio issue, even the office girls don't really know what I'm talking about. So post-polio is a condition that many of us that had polio as children or young adults back in the 40s, 50s, 60s, and even some people who've had them from getting it from the vaccine many years ago when they were giving out the live virus, are finding that getting necessary medical care is a challenge because we polio survivors tend to react very negatively to the traditional treatments that the average person doesn't have any problems with. I mean, I don't take to anesthetic, so almost all procedures I've had to have over my lifetime have been without anesthetic, including oral surgery, which is not encouraging, trust me. So when they say that the examination is requiring, some anesthetic, I say, well, what kind? And they go, well, we don't know. They're just the eye drops. I go, well, could you find out what's in them? And I will do the research to see if it's any of the things that I unfortunately negatively react to, including to a point where I decide to stop breathing. And I don't know about the rest of the world, but, the concept of stop breathing, it just doesn't go for me. I just kind of find I'm kind of partial to breathing. It just seems like I talk to the people at the offices, and I try to do all the preventative work I can. And when the one gal says to me, well, what do you mean you stop breathing? I go, the lungs no longer expel oxygen. The brain doesn't get any oxygen, so it kind of goes, quiet. The heart says, oh my, I have no oxygen, so I don't want to work. Well, apparently I have a morbid sense of humor and a morbid attempt at describing what I'm trying to get through to these people. But I've developed that because when people don't listen, I pay the price. I have been clinically dead 6 times, in the morgue once. So I kind of feel I have the expertise as to what works for me and what doesn't work for me. But in the medical field, their belief system is the patient never knows anything whatsoever. So as a result, the doctor is the end-all, be-all, know-it-all, and if there is an error, they then fall back and blame the patient because the patient didn't make it clear enough. Yeah, the patient didn't make it clear enough. I carry a letter with me that tells them what I'm allergic to and what my conditions are that I've been treated for since forever. And I have yet to have a doctor who believes what my doctor has written, and they've said, oh, well, he's just getting older, so he's exaggerating. And then I say, well, this is not going to work, so goodbye. And then when they want to charge me the full office call, I say, I'm sorry, but if I'm not going to be seeing this physician, because he doesn't have the knowledge base or the intelligence to say that maybe I know my body better than you do, I'm not paying you. And I think most people should do that. I think the fact that people are paying for their own medical, basically, even if you're buying insurance, you're paying for it. I mean, and a doctor is your employee then, or your, it's a service that you're paying for. And if you're not happy with the service, why do you have to pay for it? If you're not happy with the service on a car, you have ways of not paying for it by setting for appeals, or, writing to the auto industry, or writing to, the insurance industry. And if you don't have a physician who says, oh, well, maybe we should investigate this and see if there is an option, walk the other way, people. Do not, under any circumstances, stay in that room one more minute. Anytime a physician says to you, that's not possible, or I can't really believe that, walk away, because that means every single time they treat you, they don't believe you. That means every single time they write you a prescription, they haven't looked at your list of allergies or sensitivities. I mean, if they don't listen to your family history and you say, well, my mom had this or my dad had this, walk away. These doctors are not doctors. They are just people that bought an MD or a DO degree and do not know what the hell they're doing. And we have a lot of them. When somebody says, well, they graduated from so-and-so, what part of the class did they graduate? Were they in the upper third or the lower third? Because if they're in the lower third, I would be concerned. It means that they didn't get as much information, or they were not able to test out maybe as much as somebody else. It doesn't mean they're a bad doctor, but it could mean they just didn't get the education they need to take care of you. One thing I'm learning as I've gotten older, especially because I had this problem when I was younger, and I was called a neurotic female. Oh, and the biggest solution for my neurosis was to get married. And that would fix all my pain. That would fix my problems, whatever. And I've been married now 35 years. Guess what, folks? The polio pain doesn't go away. The fibromyalgia pain doesn't go away. The respiratory from having my lungs burned out, it doesn't go away. It's all there, and it will never go away, but I try to keep it as stable as I can. When there are situations that trigger, an event, I call it, like if I have a massive polio flare, or I have a massive fibro flare, that kind of pain is indescribable to people. It's indescribable to a point that you absolutely need someone that if you call them and say, I'm in deep trouble, or if you're a respiratory patient who has no lining to their lungs because you survived a fire that they told you, they took you to the morgue and said, well, that's not possible. And then you pull out the report from the firemen. You have the video of the fire chief who said, we pulled out a body. We did not pull out a survivor. I mean, give me a break. I think that the fact that that knowledge is mine and I have the proof means you need to listen to me and say to me, okay, I don't know how to help you. That's the kind of person I would trust. And I'd say, okay, I can tell you what has worked, and I can tell you what hasn't worked. And is there anything that we could do that is new and maybe a little less destructive. But some of the stuff is just so damaging to the bodies and the minds. And they push out some of these pills to a point where people are so drugged up and the side effects are so massive that they've actually forgotten what they went in there for in the first place. So I'm ranting today. I know I'm ranting, but I'm so tired of trying to survive with the health conditions that I've had for so long. I mean, I've had polio for 67 years. Yeah, almost 68 now. I was in a fire in a morgue in 1978 and have struggled to breathe every single day since then. I was hospitalized after the fire 46 times for pneumonia, bronchitis, trying to get the smoke out of my lungs, trying to get the fire out of my lungs. I mean, and that was all within a 2-year period. I mean, it took me going much more holistic for treatment, firing the doctors I had who had me so drugged up I didn't even know my name. I was having side effects. I was taking 56 pills a day under the doctors I had. I had to fire them because I couldn't function, let alone even think. And I started studying and becoming more and more knowledgeable on alternative medicine and started doing that. But unfortunately, some of my damage as I'm aging is going to need allopathic medications or allopathic support. And I'm desperately trying to get into a functional medical program. Cleveland Clinic has it, but I don't have enough money to do it. It's cash, you know. And when you don't have $6,000 for all the testing and that leaves that option out. But I find that my situation now, I'm so frustrated and angry and pissed off that it makes me wonder if I really even want to fight anymore. But then my husband will walk in the room, and all I can think of is, I'm not going to let it beat us. We're going to figure it out. It's going to be tough. We're going to figure it out. But as we're trying to clean our house out and get rid of stuff, and we're trying to do everything by ourselves, it's getting tiring. And Al had torn his bicep muscle a couple months ago, and he's working so hard to try to clean us all out and de-junk us and de-equipment us and get rid of all of our collections. By the way, if you're collecting a bunch of stuff and you really, really love it, rethink it. Because as you get older, what you collect and the collectible market, there's not really a market for it after all. And I mean, like, my doll collection that I've been trying to sell, even on a penny on a dollar, basically, people aren't collecting dolls. They're doing other things. Al's science fiction collections, his camera collections. You know, you just kind of go, whoa. I mean, I have China, and nobody likes China anymore. Everything is, you know, microwavable and whatever. Rethink it. Just really rethink it. So this is my rant of the day. I'm trying very hard to find solutions, and I'm trying really hard to explain to people who have health issues and disabilities that it's so easy to give up. I mean, I will be honest with you. I actually have had doctors tell me, why do you fight? Why do you fight? And I go, I just feel I'm here for a reason. And if the reason is nothing else to let my ranting give somebody else that power to say, oh, well, if Megan's ranting, I can rant. And it's perfectly safe and it's legitimate. And if nothing else, if it's to tell people, Don't be abused. Don't allow that to go on. I mean, for years, I have fired my doctors who have thought that it's okay to make me a drug addict. It's okay to give me 46 pills a day. What does it matter? She's low income. She doesn't really matter. She doesn't exist. One thing I find with a lot of low income people with disabilities is basically they're medicated into somber. It's like, well, if they don't know what they're doing or anything, keep them quiet. They did that in nursing homes. I mean, when I worked in nursing homes as a teenager, the thing that killed me was to watch all these beautiful people lined up in a hall, falling asleep in chairs. And they would just leave them there like that all the time. And I'm like, why? Well, they're easier to handle when they're sleeping. And that's the reality. That's what has happened in our society. And it has continued, and it's still continuing. And as they cut more benefits for people with disabilities and seniors, it's going to be a lot easier to medicate them into complete zombie-type behavior so that they can keep short staff and not have to address the fact that, some of these people were heroes and amazing people and artists and mechanics and all the most amazing people in the world that we could ever wish for. And they don't deserve that kind of end of life. I'm not going to go quietly. I'm going to guarantee you that. It's not going to be easy to get rid of me. I mean, I have out-survived every one of my siblings. And I have dealt with health issues since forever. But I had 5 siblings. I had 4 brothers and a sister. And they're all gone. And 4 of them were younger than me. So I'm not going easily. I'm going to be in a fairly antagonistic, I would say kick-ass, maybe. As my husband says to me, they've poked the bear, and that was the mistake. So I'm just hoping to find solutions. And when I find solutions, I want to pass them on. Like I found out the Medicare supplement program here in Michigan, there is a subsidy for people who are on Medicare A and B, and they're under 65. And it will pay like $125 a month towards the Medicare supplement. That's a lot of money to help somebody who's on a fixed income. If you're over 65, they'll help with like $40, which helps. But if you're over 65, the Medicare supplement costs you a lot more too. So it's that kind of information I want to pass on. So anyway, today is Tuesday, and I believe it's January 9th, isn't it, already, of 2018? Wow, 2018. I can't believe it. January 9th. My goodness, my mom and dad would have been married 68 years today. No, 69 years today. Wow. But they're both gone. So I hope people have a better year. I hope 2018 is not nearly as horrible as 2017 was for people. So I'm going to sign off. This is Megan. Bye-bye.